What's up, everyone? This is Adrian from our Transliness, and this is Eli. We're both from St. Louis, and we're going to just start a dialogue about identities and how Eli came to identify as trans, as a little pretty boy, and queer, all these things. So that's that. All right, so a little self-introductory, if you will.
Okay. What all do you want me to say?
Phone number, address.
Security number. My name is Eli. I'm 24 years old. I currently reside in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm from Minnesota. My favorite color is red. I like candy a lot. I am also a drag king, which has become a pretty big, important part of my life. So.
Perfect segue.
And I am trans-identified. I guess, yeah, you should know that I am 4.5 months on T. And yeah, so.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned, you're a pretty prominent figure in the drag community here in St. Louis. I've only lived here a year, and I already know that. So when did you first get interested in drag? Like, when did this come on your radar?
I went to Webster University. I graduated back in 2010. Webster University every year throws a drag ball. It's this big, huge drag show. And what we like to do is get amateur performers in the show. And so there was one year where we were really struggling to get student and amateur performers. And so I was like, you know what the hell, I'll do it. So that was back in 2009, spring of 2009. And from then on, it just snowballed. And I did their amateur shows, and next thing you know, I was getting booked for shows left and right. And so now I'm like doing a good 4 or 5 shows a month.
Right.
So,
very
yeah.
good. So what was your concept of gender and drag like when you first started? Like, did you know a lot about it? Like, how'd that work for you?
When I first learned about drag, I was like, okay, well, at the time, I was female identified, and that's whatever, yeah. And so I was like, okay, I can be a drag king, I can dress up in men's clothes, I pretty much do that all the time, and I can get on stage and dance around and lip sync songs. That's what drag was for me.
And so now that you've obviously progressed in, you've evolved as a performer, and you've also evolved as a person, what elements of masculine expression, how has that differed for you now that you went from being, identifying as female to now identifying as male and or trans?
I feel like I play around more with my persona as far as masculinity goes. Like, I haven't even said my drag name. My drag name is Yung Wang. And I feel like Wang, I'm not going to say the whole thing because it's a mouthful. I feel like Wang is can be super, super masculine, over masculinized. But at the same time, I can make him act like a freaking pretty boy.
Mm. What parts of of Wang's masculine expression do you camp up? Like, I know that you.
Oh, I will over masculinize the hell out of him. I will be this super butch, manly man on stage sometimes. But then, depending on the song, I may have him dance around like a fairy. So yeah, I think most of the time I will over masculinize him, which that is not Eli by any means.
Do you think that you mentioned that your expression was pretty masculine, but your gender expression isn't necessarily tied to your gender identity. Do you think that with camping up and masculinizing your gender expression in those moments when you're performing, did that trigger anything for you in terms of figuring out your own identity, your gender identity?
I don't think it did.
You don't think it did?
I don't think it did.
So there's a pretty decent-sized drag community here in St. Louis. There's a bunch of amateurs, a bunch of very, very, very good, I would say, professionals here. How do you feel about both female assigned at birth cis people doing drag as men, alongside people who are female assigned at birth, trans people who are male identified doing drag? Is there a difference in that style, or do you see a rift between those two communities?
To be completely honest, I feel like there's more cis females performing drag than there are trans. I'll say I don't want to like generalize, but I feel like there's more cis females that are drag kings than there are trans men. Like there's a couple of us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like there's a divide or anything of that. Like,
do you think there's a difference in style at all?
no, not really. I mean, I think it just in general, performer to performer, there's a difference in style.
Yeah.
So I am curious as a trans identified drag king. I am curious to see how the rest of the crowd is going to. I don't know if the accept is the right word, but like the drag community in St. Louis is very welcoming and awesome. There are a lot of M to F drag queens, and they're all loved and adored. But yeah, I'm curious to see how it is going to be from my end, from the spectators, the people watching. So
right. Have you experienced any issues with being trans and performing in drag? Because a lot of people come into those spaces thinking that women perform as men and men perform as women, and it's this very binary black and white thing. How does that work for you?
For people who don't know me, they assume that I am female identified because when I get announced on stage, like people know I'm a drag king or they've heard my drag name before, and so they're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, he's a drag king, and then they see me at a drag and assume that I'm female.
Yeah.
And it's been quite frustrating.
Has it been uncomfortable at times?
A little bit, but I think over the past like months, like everything, like I'm more comfortable and more outspoken about it, and I'm able to, I don't want to say defend, but to be able to explain myself.
Mm-hmm.
And even within like my own, like I said, like coming into this, and when I first started doing drag, I thought I saw it as a very binary thing, and now I don't see it like that. This is a gender performance. Like this is drag as a performance of gender, and how like what can we do to fuck with it.
Was there any like memorable moment in drag where your male identity, your trans identity was like really affirmed on stage?
That's a good question. These are things I don't really think about when I'm performing, because I just like get on stage and I just do it to it. I think that my style. I used to, like I said, Wang is mostly like the super macho masculine dude, but sometimes he will go and like be flamboyant and be super effeminate, and that's always fun. But still, like put it out there, like yeah, what up? I'm a drag king, and I've only recently done that. I think since coming to terms with my gender.
Yeah. So do you think that your trans identity has allowed you to
push the boundaries of gender?
Right, yeah,
definitely.
or at least play with
Even
wings.
coming out of my comfort zone, like you saw me at the last Saturday strip show, and that was just me being half naked on stage. Come the end of the song, like I would have never done that before. So I guess I've definitely grown within my performance and all that since coming to terms with my gender.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all that I have for this session of discussions of drag and gender fucking and being trans and all of that. So I'd like to thank Eli again out of St. Louis for stopping by my apartment.
And I can start back here.
Okay. So
a little dance. Are we gonna do it? Get on that. What up, our trans in this?
that will go in the bloopers. That will go in the bloopers.